Hey everyone, before I go live here and we go ahead and get started, I'm just going to do a quick sound test. Just make sure everything is working properly. Okay, so it sounds like it's good on my end. Let me just make sure that links are working here. All right, awesome. Very good. So the chat's open, so if you have any questions regarding what I'm doing during this stream, feel free to ask. Let me go ahead and switch my stream screen, rather, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so let me just make sure that things are transitioning smoothly. There we go. All right. Just checking my speed. Sometimes my internet isn't that great, and today's not one of those days. Great. Okay. All right. So basically, where we left off, we had created this character. We had created the design and everything like that. And we worked on the iRig. Now, off stream, I worked on a few more things that I want to show you. I worked on the TV. Really trying to get it to match up the style and everything. And as you can see, like I'm not going to show you how to create a TV. It's pretty simple, I would imagine. So I'll break down real quick just what I did for the side. The front I haven't quite done yet. But this was all done with the freehand tool, just going in here and just adding little, I don't know what that was. They're supposed to be like strings, just something to make it kind of look like it's in the jungle. It's a box TV, give it some leaves. These are vectors, but everything else is freehand, but as far as like the vines and the plants and the stuff. But the leaves, those are vector. All the rest of it is vector. These are freehand tool. And I actually did this with what do you call them? This was also with freehand tool as well, as far as all of these textures right here as well. So okay, so just breaking this down really quick. As far as the antenna, it's just all vector. The box, this took a little while to figure out how to do this, so I can kind of show you real quick what kind of worked for me as far as creating a 3D shape, just kind of at a perspective shot here. So basically all I did is I just took a square and then copied and pasted it, shrunk it down just a little bit, from the side here, and then I connected the points together. So all of this is all done on one layer, and then I just connected the points. As you can see there, that's not very good. So let me go ahead and move this over. This over just a little bit more. So just trying to get some perspective on it. And so that's all I did really, is I connected all the points, and then to get each of them to have a side, I basically just went and first I took out all the shapes. So now it's just back to just the line art. And then I just went ahead and deleted the lines that I didn't need and just filled those up. And then as you can see there, this is all these boards right here. If you ever have any trouble with it, I'll show you how I did that as well. But it's pretty simple. So just connect the pieces. I'll just show it with just the one face right here. So I connected the pieces, and then to get this to make all one shape, you basically just want to select the different points, because sometimes it doesn't get it right away, but you just want to select the different points. So right there, I would create that as a shape. So let me go ahead and grab a color. Let's see, let's try that one more time. So grabbing that color, is it creating the shape? I can't tell. It is, but for whatever reason, it's not grabbing the right color. Let me make sure this is actually a shape. So let's go ahead and highlight all of that. What? Okay, so one more time. Let me try this again. So I'm gonna create a shape for these points right here. Maybe that's what I was missing. Okay, there we go. So I just go through and I just create I just select the different points that I'm trying to create a shape with, and yeah, that's basically it as far as that. So that's what I did for the TV. For everything else that I did, well, the only other things I was really working on was, as far as the different scenes, was this bowl of worms here. And basically, this was just... oh, I wonder if I saved the wrong version, because now it's not connecting right. Or this bowl, let's see. So this was all just FlexiBound. So I'll show you, I'll just break this down really quick so you can see how everything was done. So this I still need to work on. I haven't added any smart bones or anything like that. This was all just kind of really quick. Again, these lines here, this was done with the freehand tool. As far as my settings currently, so you can see those. For my settings, let's just pick a layer here. This is all I had as far as having it set to. Auto stroke, merge strokes. And again, it says use pen pressure, but I did this all with my mouse. So I basically just did lines like that with my mouse. And so taper start, taper end. So that's basically it as far as what I did. And then I just kind of rescaled the different strokes and stuff as needed to kind of, again, still fit with the style of this bird. The kind of tricky thing is that I was finding too is when I originally drew this, I drew it at this size. And then obviously when I bring it into the scene, I need to scale it down, making sure that it fits the same stroke size and things like that. So if you're not careful when you're compositing and you're bringing all of your scene together, things can kind of, like the strokes are still a little bit big compared to like the TV and stuff. So that's just one of the things to watch out for, just so you can keep it consistent for your whole entire scene. And then I'll talk about this in a little bit. But as far as this bowl of worms here, so let me see. I think I maybe... oh, that's worm01. Okay, so I grabbed the wrong one. So let me go back to my assets here and grab the right one. I think I did... oh, okay, so we got worms and worm01. Something that I did here, this might be helpful to some of you. So as you probably know, I had like a bunch of different versions and saves of each thing. These are the final ones. At the end of the day, what I do is I put them into a Z folder. You can really call this in whatever you want, but this was just a little trick I picked up when I was working with a couple of producers last year. And basically all I did was just put all of these versions into this Z folder, the ones that I don't want to use. So, but in case it does crash and I do lose data on one of these, I can just go back to one of the original ones, one of the older ones, most recent ones, and pick up from where I left off. So that's kind of what that is right there. So it looks like the bowl itself is not bound to a bone anymore. So let me go ahead and bind that to this bone really quick. Both the bowl and the shadow there. So that should probably get that connected. There we go. So that's not connected anymore. This right here isn't bound to anything, but I kind of like the way that it looks with the bone strength. It moves along with it. So that's kind of nice. And then if you haven't seen yet, basically the animation for the worms, I just did kind of a quick animation of them moving. That's kind of like what they would look like as they were moving inside of this bowl. Okay, so again, it's not too clean yet. This a lot of what I was doing was just kind of a test to get everything that I've rigged so far, just testing them out and see how it looks. So basically I created a root bone for each of these worms, again just breaking it down. So I got this one that's overlapping. I don't really know how to do this, so I'll have to work on this a little bit more when I can. Probably won't do it on stream because I'll probably be struggling with it. But I wanted to have him overlapping this bowl and then have his body inside the bowl. So I'll still have to work on that bit. The bowl itself is inside of a mask because of this shadow right here. I wanted to keep it inside of a mask. So the bowl's pretty simple. You got your shadow and you got your bowl base layer. The worm too. That's the second half of his body. I could label these a lot better, so I could probably just call this worm 2, F for front, and then, whoops, and then worm 2 back. And then as far as this one right here, this is the third worm, the fourth worm. So these all have bones as well, as you can see. Again, something happened with my binding. I don't know. I think I was doing this one as the official one, and I forgot to save it back to what I want to reference everything else with. So let me go ahead and do the binding real quick. So all I'm doing is just flexi binding, selecting that bone, making sure I'm on that layer, hit Control Shift F, and there we go. That's now bound. Again, there's some, as you can see there, there's some effect on that bone over there, or that worm, I guess. So what I could do is I could turn down the scaling a little bit more, or not the scaling, but the strength, and that can reduce the movement on that side as well. And then, yeah, and then the worm, that one's just kind of chilling there, but it moves with the other ones, and I like the way that it looked moving with everything else. So with this, because I was just working on it, I'm going to save this as a new version. Okay. This TV, it wants to save a new version, but I don't think I did anything. But this is what I want to get into. Let me just make sure I'm following my notes here. Yeah. Okay. So this scene right here is what I was mainly working with. So all this is a jungle background, and I made sure to use a image that's not like an editorial image or something that I would need rights to. This was reused for modification and whatever purposes needed. And so basically what I did is I took that image, so I'll just focus on one thing at a time. So the image is down here in this layer. I was doing a couple of things with it, so I put it into a group layer, but it could be on its own really. And watch what happens when I hit Control, or when I render my layer, Control R. You can see it blurs out, and also you can see some rays here. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But to get that blurriness effect, let's go ahead and let's zoom the camera out actually as well. So it's where the full scene would be showing, which is probably, I don't know. I haven't really quite fleshed everything out yet. Okay, so right there. So you can see the background a little bit better. The settings that I have for this is right here. I have my blur radius set to 5. That's what gives it that blur. And that's basically it. And the only other thing I think I have, immune to camera. I think I have the actual group immune to camera. No, I don't. Oh, wait, no. I don't have this immune to the camera. What I did with the background, I'll show you. I'll go into the 3D view here, is I kind of want to give it a parallaxing effect. What I'd like to do is I'd like to cut this branch out. I've seen some pretty cool stuff being done with smart warps. I don't know if they're still used within the same layer or if they're being cut out, but I'm seeing a lot of cool things being used with smart warps that I'll have to test off stream, because I want to make this branch closer to this scene right here, and then have all of this, maybe these branches, I don't know yet, but I'll have all of this further away from the camera. So this will be the closest to the camera, the second closest, and then all that will be further away. So I can get a really cool parallaxing effect. So all I would need to do to bring that more into the scene there, to make that even worth it, is just moving that over. But as for right now, when I go ahead and I track the camera around the scene, you can kind of see it kind of has a little bit of a parallax effect to the scene as well. Let's go ahead and just, so if I'm just kind of scrolling back and forth there, kind of has that effect. And for those of you who don't know how to do this, I can show you really quick for the background. Basically all I did, let's go ahead and reset the position. So if I go, let's see, reset, oops. Let's see, I'm trying to reset the Z. How do I do this? 0, right? I would think. No. Oh, that's scale. Let's just go ahead and do this anew real quick, so I can show you how I did this for those that are wondering. So let me go ahead and delete this. So what I did is I went to the images, and I went to wherever I saved that image, jungle reference. This is it right here. So the background. So there it is right there, the jungle background. So that's the original size of it. There we go. So now it's on the actual image itself. So what I want to do that parallaxing effect, first I want to get it to the size that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag that up to wherever looks good. As you can see, there's no blur on it right yet. So the actual image itself is showing through pretty clearly. But what I did is I went to the 3D view, or the orbit. So I just went ahead and orbited my scene there. And with M on the keyboard, or the transform layer, making sure I'm on my image layer, I just went ahead and I pushed that back with the the shift plus alt to move in and maintain visual size. So actually, let's do this before I move it there. Let's actually move it for how far I want it back. So what I can do is I can push it how far back I want. And as you can see, that's how far I want to push it back. But once I let go of my mouse, it's going to snap back into place. And so to see what it actually did, I can just kind of go here and look in this view. And there you go. So that's basically how you do that parallaxing effect. You can do it to however far you want. So if I moved it too far back, I could actually move that closer back to me, just using that same keyboard shortcut, Shift, Alt, and then moving it closer to the camera. Okay, so that's how that works. Yeah, so as far as that blur, so if I wanted to get that blur back, I would just apply 5. 5 seems to work pretty good. You go in at 10, and you really cannot see your background. As you could probably tell, you can't really see what's going on there. It doesn't look like a jungle, but 3, 5 around that area is a little bit more better. So once I start panning around and zooming in this scene, you can kind of see a little bit better what's behind the bird there. So if I do 3, yeah. So I would say 3 is probably as far as I would go there. Okay, so that's basically it as far as the background. Moss, I still need to get some references so I can make this look like actual moss and not just some goop. Right now it doesn't really look like anything. I don't know. I guess you can tell me in the chat if you think this looks like moss, or if you know what this looks like just looking at it, but it doesn't really look like anything to me, honestly. Yeah, so again, the other thing too is just be mindful of your strokes. There's a couple of things I'm going to need to fix as far as getting the strokes to all line up. These all look like they were literally objects just dragged into the same scene that were from different objects. That's basically what it looks like. It looks like they were made outside of the scene and then dragged in. So to not get that effect, I need to resize some of these things. So it's good to use an existing object is what I'm thinking. Good to use an existing object next to your real object as you're designing it so that you can get your stroke the same size, because I don't like the way the TV looks. I like the way that the bird and the worms look, but the TV not so much. Okay, so now the part that I wanted to get into, let me just make sure I'm going along here. Yeah, so the part that I wanted to get into is talking about blending. I'm not a pro when it comes to blending. I watched a tutorial that was pretty comprehensive yesterday. That was like an hour long of this guy explaining blending and how it all works. And even still, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But I could show you something that I kind of did and picked up on my own that I think would be pretty beneficial once I figure out a really good way to utilize it. So what I did with this jungle is I created above it, and you can do this anywhere above, preferably on the very highest layer. What I did is these little sun rays right here. Oh, it's not at all visible for whatever reason. So let's go ahead. So what I did is this right now, as you can see, I have these sun rays, but they are invisible right now in the actual editing view. So to bring those back in, and the reason why I hid those, you'll see in a minute, to bring anything back in that you have hidden but still renders, just go here and uncheck hide in editing view. And so this is what it looks like. So if I hit render, you can see it doesn't show up like that because I have a blending view. Oh, there we go. That's why it wasn't showing up. My render was way too close. So as you can see there's some sun streaks or whatever they're called. I don't know what they're called. So like something like there's just a light going through the trees. So what I did, I should say, is the first thing I did is I created a kind of a background or an overlay, if you will. So this right here, this square is representing my overlay that's going over top of the image. And depending on how light or dark I make this overlay will make this image in render lighter or darker. So just to show you exactly what I'm doing. So right now this is set to like a perfect DF, 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 whatever that is. Okay, so whatever this gray color is. So if I bring this down darker, when I render this, you're going to be able to see these rays a lot clearer, but the background is going to be a lot darker. So let's go ahead and let's render this so you can see. So that's the effect that I'm getting right there. So this is just an overlay over top of this image, and then I have these sun streaks coming down that I'll talk about as well. But I thought this was a really cool effect, and the really cool thing that I also found out about this is if I wanted to, I can animate. Because these are what do you call it? They're just vectors that I created. I could animate these vectors. Say for instance the character was moving around the screen. So let me go ahead and take that away real quick. So with this character, if he was going let's see, this isn't going to look good by any means, but if I just took this character and I moved them from here to here in the animation, what I could do is I could follow that character with my lighting. I would like to find a way that I could rig this to where the light actually follows the character. I'm thinking I don't know if it'd be like a target bone or control bone. I'm not really too great with the technical effects type of thing. So that's where a lot of the off-stream stuff will take place. But if I was to do this manually, so each of these streaks right here represent sunlight. So if I put this character in between these two streaks, so let's say, so these ones, if I follow them down right, whoa. Okay, so this. Okay, so if I took these two right here, and let's go ahead and let's just give it a group name so I can quickly select them, and I'll call it shadow. So these 4 points that I just selected, I'm going to call them shadow. So when I want to select them and move them around, I could quickly just access those points. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I click off of them, you can see that they're no longer selected. But if I go to the group and I click on shadow, they're already selected right there. Okay, so let's just follow this character with our shadow. Again, I don't know really too much about lighting and how to do this perfectly, but it'd be something like that, just as an example. So as the character's moving back and forth, he's staying within that shadow, more or less, right? Because we got to work on perspectives and your horizon line and a lot of the stuff that I really don't know too well that I'm still in the process of learning. So what I can do though, so let's go ahead so you can see right now that character is in shadow. I'm still working this out a little bit, but yeah. What I would probably do is have the shadow start where the character is, not just a whole shadow streak. But this is just an example. So when the character is moving, you're going to see that shadow is still following that character. So that's just an idea. Or if I wanted to, I can animate, like when the trees are waving in the wind, these sun streaks that are coming through the trees are also going to be animating. They're going to be moving along and stuff with the different shadow and the light that's coming through the leaves. So that was just kind of an idea. But what I did to get this effect, first off, is I have two things on this one layer, on layer 7 here, what I named. I have my kind of like my overlay, and then I have my sun streaks. And I'll just show you really quick how I did this. It's nothing fancy at all. Make sure I'm on frame 0. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Obviously, someone's going to see this, and they're going to come up with a technique to really make this awesome, and I hope someone does, because I was just kind of playing around with it yesterday. But basically, all I did is I grabbed the whitest of white, and I went to my shape tool here with a triangle, and I drew out a triangle, right? So that's all I did really. And then all I did was I rotated a bit, about 30 degrees or however much that is. And then for these points right here, I just took and I just drag those down to wherever you need it. Again, if I need to adjust my horizon line, again, I don't know enough about that stuff, but I can, and I can drag that out right there. And then all I did is I basically just created some points down here for where I want to drag my different shadows, and I connected them back to the horizon line. So for example, so I want to have it kind of like a squarish color or squarish shape at the bottom. So I just kind of just drew those out and then just drag it back in towards that that horizon line. So nothing too fancy. Let's go ahead and let's add another point there. And if you wanted to make this like perfectly even, what you can also do is you can select all of these points, and you can go to split right here. Let's see, I just want to select these points right here. I don't want anywhere else. So in between these 2 points, I can go to hit G on the keyboard, select points tool, and you'll have this option for split. For older versions, if you're looking at this and you're using like Anime Studio, it's a script as well. Draw, and then I think I don't know if it's split curve. That might work. I'm not entirely sure. Or maybe this is just a new feature, but basically I just want to split this, and I want to add how many points I want in between. So I really don't know how many points I'm going to add in between, so I'll just hit 10. Oh, whoops, that's not working. Split. Okay, well, that's weird. So I'm just going to keep on clicking on this value until I get enough points. So there you can see that they're all kind of like equally spaced. If you wanted to do this is if you wanted to do it. And then I just drag everything out to however I want it. See, as you can see there, I didn't have equal amount. But if I go ahead and I render this, you can see that's how I got the sunlight going through. And again, if it's too dark, if you don't want it, you're seeing this dark, all you need to do is you just need to lighten up your color. And the last part of this that I want to talk about is on this same layer. If I go ahead and I double click layer 7, what I have the blending mode set to is what's called multiply. So by default it's normal, then you have multiply, and then again this is where I kind of lost track in the tutorial where he was talking about what all these different things do, but they have to do with basically your base color, which is this right here, your blend, and the result. And depending on the color of your pixels, usually black and white works best with multiply for kind of like an overlay over top of another image is what I found. But you can really use any colors as long as it has a dark value in it, a dark and a light value. Yeah, that's all I got for you because I really don't know too much about blending modes. But for that, what I could do though is I can hide that so it's not in the way the whole entire time. So I know that it's there. If I want to animate it, I can just go to that layer and select it. Same thing with the jungle. While I'm animating, I don't leave images and things like this in place. So what I do is I hide it in editing view, but to avoid having to hide it and then click it and then render it and then hide it again, I just leave it hidden in my editing view. So every time I render, it's always there, but it's not there when I'm editing. And that's kind of helpful for me. Okay, so yeah, there's quite a bit of what I was able to do off stream. I was up till about 2 this morning working on this and just trying to get ahead of myself a little bit there. Yeah, so if you have any questions about what I currently talked about, go ahead and ask me those. But what I'd like to, what I'd like to work on today is just what we're going to do today. We're just going to start setting up our bird, the actual rig for the bird, to get the animation going. So again, I set up this scene, as you can see. Whoops, let's go ahead and take that off. So I set up a little scene here just to kind of test, which I highly suggest you do, is just to do some testing for your character, to make sure everything looks good before you continue with other things. So all I was doing was testing the eyes that we did yesterday, testing the worms in the bowl. I need to add smart bones and stuff to the worm bends and different things like that. Figure out what I'm going to do with this to make that look a little bit better. But as of right now, that's basically what I have. So I just wanted to animate this and just kind of test it out. And if I sound like I'm talking out of my butt today, I apologize. I kind of just woke up. It's 10 a.m. and yeah, I feel like I haven't gotten enough sleep. All right, so TV. I don't think I'd changed anything to that, so I'm going to go ahead and say no. The worms, that's saved. Yeah, so everything that I'm putting into this scene, what would be most ideal is to make all of these references. So any changes that I make to, let's say, this bird, because I reference and it's a reference layer, the change will show up here rather than having to continually copy and paste this bird into this scene. If I make this into a reference, which as you can see, none of them are, they're all broken. They originally were, but what I would get is a lot of channels here. Whenever you make a reference, I'll show you an example really quick. So if I take that bird out and let's see. So if I do a import, I think it's general import, if I'm not mistaken, is to just make sure you get everything. So if I go to the assets to the bird, I have my option here to import by reference. So if I do that, oops, shoot. Let's make sure I'm on frame 0. So you can see it's already kind of messing something up. There we go. So I want to make sure I'm on frame 0. Okay, let me just delete the silly bird one more time. And let me go ahead and again, so you can do general import or you can do Moho object. So this would technically be a Moho object, this bird. So again, so making sure that's checked, making sure I'm importing by its reference, not the actual file itself. So this is just the reference, right? What I would get, and it's not really showing up at the moment, and I think it's because the reference isn't really quite connected. When I have this red arrow, that means it's not really connected. So what I'm going to do to make sure that this is connected is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to update layer reference. And when you do this, it's going to give you this checkbox and says, how would you like to handle conflicts? And so for layer differences, add new missing layers from the original source. So any changes that I make to the layers, it's going to make to here. Remove layers that don't exist in the original. So any layers that I create in this, if I have this checked, it's going to continually remove them every time I update this. So that's why you always make a reference here, but you work on your original in the original. And then replace mismatched vectors. Again, that's in case you add more points and move things around here. If you have that checked and you update your reference, it's going to break those two references. It's going to destroy everything that you created here on scene 01_007. It's going to break everything that you did here and replace it with the original. So you want to make sure you're checking the right thing. Same with bone differences. So this just goes to rigging. So that's why you make sure you do everything correctly in your base. And then in your base, I guess that would be your base reference. And then when you use your references here, or your original reference, and then when you use the references here, they're exactly as they are in the original. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK for all of these. And so now you're going to see when I drop this down, I'm going to have a green arrow for everything, letting me know that everything is now being referenced from the original layer. And I'll show you what this does. So when I go into the bird, and let's say I just want to change the color of his, the top of his head there. Well, all these colors are going to look dumb. But if I want to change the color of his head, if I did that properly with the reference, which it doesn't seem to be, let's see. Maybe it's not real. Oh, you know what? So I need to save it. So after I do that, what I need to do is I need to save it. So I'm just going to do a new save because I want to delete this. I don't need to keep this. So once I save that and I go into the other one and I update that layer reference, again, making sure that I'm checking everything. I'm missing something. I can't think of what I'm missing. So that's the original. If someone knows that is watching, if you could help me out, just so, let's see, his head. What the heck? See, I thought this would work. Update layer reference, sync all channels to original. Okay, that's the channels though. Break reference, locate original. Okay, so let me try something real quick. Let me just make sure this is referencing the right thing. Locate original. Okay, that's why, because I broke that reference. So it actually has to be saved in the same file name. So I actually broke that. So let me go ahead and just close that out. So if I change the original, ooh, that's going to make it tricky with all my different saves. But anyway, if I change the original color, let's just say I make it darker, and I save this, I'll just go ahead and do that because I could revert it. And I saved this. When I go to this character here and I update, you can see that that is now red. It's because the reference is not connected completely, because I just created a new save and it's saying, wait, something's different. What's different? You need to update your layer reference. Make sure the proper things are checked, and voila, now it's checked, right? So now it's saved. So you can do this with smart bones. If I added smart bones to this bird here, it'll update those bones over here. So let's just show you an example. I'm going to create one big bone right there. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to say save. And then when I go to here and I go ahead, again, like you can see there, it knows something else is different. So I'm going to go ahead and update my layer reference. And now this is a bone. Replace mismatched bones. Now that bone's added. Okay, so that's how you use reference layers, and they can be really handy, especially when you're working with a team of people as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just save that. All right, so now I'm not going to do anything else with this. This is what I was talking about. You get these weird channels, which is kind of frustrating because it's like select bone motor speed. I think that's like for physics. And what it's trying to reference is the channels from here, this project, into here. And for whatever reason, it wants to reference these stupid channels, and I cannot figure a way. Maybe I need to seek all channels original. Oh, derp. I think I just figured it out. Let me do something really quick here. That's the beauty of live, is you get to see my oops moments. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say save. I'm going to update the layer reference. So I wonder if that's what it was. I wonder if I just needed to sync all channels to original. That way you don't get a whole, because I would get like a whole channel full of channels, a whole channel, whatever this thing is, gosh dang. But all these different channels that don't even match the animation, and they just take up a lot of room is all they do. They're useless. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and break that reference. So again, as you can see, this is no longer referenced. And once you break it, you can't reference it back to the original one. You would have to create a new reference, bring that in, and then make sure that you never break it. Obviously, you can probably undo. Yeah, you can hit Control-Z to undo. There you go. You can see that those channels are back. So if I sync the original channels, see, I don't really know how that works, because see, I still have those channels synced there. And if I go to the locate original reference, it's that right there. So for whatever reason, it still isn't doing it properly. But I'm not going to mess with that for now. What I'm going to do, Don't save. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the bird. So let me just go ahead and organize my files here really quick. So I'm going to go to animation, the assets. So I'm going to drag all the things that I don't need for the latest version into the Z folder. So that's going to be worms. Okay, so now I have all of my original things. So bird, that should be the latest one. That's the one that we left off on and had a little bit of a color change. Crap. I want to grab that original color that I had again, but I'll kind of just wing it for now. I think it was a little bit brighter. Nope, that's orange. So I think it was somewhere around there. I won't worry about it. So what we're going to do now, let me see if I have enough time actually. Okay, I got 20 minutes. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to start rigging this bird character. All right, so this is where I'm going to find out a lot of my mistakes as well. This is where planning comes in handy to be able to plan a lot of this stuff out. Because now what I'm going to be going through and noticing is my mistakes of where my layers aren't going to be working and where I need to be switching things up. I kind of learned that once I start rigging, which is okay. So let's see. The first thing that I want to do is I want to create a root bone. So I'm going to create the root bone right there because what I want to do is I want to give his tail some bend on this end. Let's see. Do I want to do it that way? This is kind of where I got to figure things out really quick here. So I'm thinking, this is kind of what I'm thinking for the bone layout. So his body, I got to add some squash and stretch in there somewhere, and I got to give his head some movement. So I'm thinking something like that. And then for the back side here, if I do it this way, he's going to be bending from the middle. Nope, that's a dumb idea. That's not going to work. So as far as the root bone, let's see. I could probably do this. I'm going to do a root bone here. And I'm going to do his spine. So I'm going to do a bone here, and a bone for his head. I'm going to go back to that bone. And I'm trying to think. For now, I'll just do a bone right there. So that's just for his tail. For his wing, I wasn't really going to do too much with the wing, but I will give it a bone just in case I do want to do something with it. So what I could do to kind of help me out a little bit better is to see where that wing actually starts. So I'm not rotating it in some weird spot. So I could easily just go to this wing, go to this little drop down arrow and make sure my paths are on so I can see the actual path or the path being the stroke. And then just create my bone from there. Yeah, so if I wanted to give it a little bit of a bend, I'd probably add 2 bones. So yeah, it's basically it for the body. And then if I go into this, back to the root bone, I'm going to do the leg. So the leg of the actual bird is actually pretty interesting. I don't know if you've looked at like the skeletal structure of a bird. Skeletal, bird skeleton. I don't know if they're all the same, but you have this bone that comes out from, well, actually, you know what? Yeah, see, I can't really tell what's what. I can't tell if this is like what it's supposed to be, its pelvis, or if they even have a pelvis, or if this is. Because they have this bone that comes out right here. So they actually have 1, 2, 3 bones. But actually in the leg part right here, it's just right here is what's visible. So that's what I'm doing. I actually don't know what this bone is for. I don't know enough about birds to even know. But for the movement, I think that'll be fine. That's the thing I'll kind of learn as I go. So I'm going to drag the bone right there. And then for the foot, I'm not going to worry too much about that. So I'm just going to do 1 bone because this will be switch layers. I'm going to go back to this bone here. And what I could do for this part right here is I could hide the body so I can make sure that I'm doing this second leg a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that body. And then same thing, I'm going to make sure that I put that bone in the correct rotational point, which is not going to really be there. I'll work with it once I start moving stuff around. So a lot of it is trial and error when you're rigging, as you probably have already known from either my courses or just from your own testing. So let's see. Whoops. I think there was a way that I could move just one bone, wasn't there? This is confusing. I'm just trying to move this one bone, and for some reason it's moving everything else. Old to force translation. Nope, that's not it. Shift to constrain. Okay. So, that's the root bone, but I was just going to try to get it to point up, but for some reason it's affecting everything else. I didn't think it would do that. I thought I could rotate it. Let's see. Let's check out my parenting. That makes sense as to why it won't let me do that. So if I wanted to do that, I'd have to break all the parenting and then reparent it. So that's fine. So this is going to be my root bone. This is where I'm going to be moving everything with. As you can see, the eye is kind of bobbing around in his head. That's because I still need to do a lot of binding right now. So I'm going to take the strength off completely off my root bone. There doesn't need to be any strength on that because everything else is going to be parented to that root bone. If I go into the feet here, the next thing I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to create a, a target bone. So just make sure nothing is parented. Go ahead and drag out my bone. Make sure nothing's parented. Go ahead and drag out my bone. So this is for the target bone. And you just want to, with a target bone, you can do whatever you want, but you just want them big enough so that you can actually grab the bone itself when you start moving things around. So that's fine. So the parent bones, they're not going to have any strength either. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the strength to 0. And really quick here, I'm just going to create those as target bones. Okay. And all right, so now I can start getting into the actual rigging of the character. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the eye layer here, and I'm just going to layer bind this. There's really nothing fancy to it. So I'm just going to select that, and then I'm going to bind it to the layer. The wing, I'm going to bind it to these two bones right here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit select those, select bone, and then Control Shift F. I'm going to do a flexi binding there. The leg. See, I think this is where I notice where I mess up. So the leg, I can't do anything to this main layer right here. What I need to do is I need to go into the individual layers, and I'll figure out what I want to do of whether I need to do point binding or flexi binding. But for now, my default is always flexi binding. So with this highlight right here, because it's on his leg, I'm just going to bind it to the one leg bone right there. But for the entire leg itself, I'm going to bind it to both of the legs. I'm trying to remember if I could do this way. I can. Okay, good. So now when I move this leg, those things are bound more or less properly. For the other leg here, actually, let's just make sure we're going in order. So for the foot's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a switch layer. So I'm going to have that. The only thing you can do with switch layers is you can only bind them. Whoa, my thing froze. Ah, dang it. All right, so I'm gonna see if I can save this before this crashes. Okay, good. Yeah, because it won't let me. Oh, duh. So with this bone, I need to select the bone first, and then I can go into the switch layer. So this only switch layers can be bound with layer binding. So I'm gonna go ahead and bind that with a layer. And let's go to the mouth. So the mouth is also going to be bound to the head. So this will also be inside of a switch layer. I thought I created a switch layer for this, for the mouth. Oh yeah, that's right. The mouth. Shoot. Oh, you know what? That's probably what I should work on in this stream is the mouth. But I could easily rebind that. So for now, I'm just going to bind it to the head. Because this, I'm trying to figure out if I want to do smart bones or switch layers. Because there's going to be kind of a lot going on at the mouth. I'm going to be doing lip syncing with this character. So his mouth is going to be moving. He's also going to be eating, chewing, showing some emotions. I don't know. I'll have to figure out as I get there. The body, the entire body is going to be, let's go ahead and select them. Interesting. This will be interesting. So this right here, I could tie. like the way that that stretches out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these bones right here for that shadow. The highlight, that's just going to be the head. So I'm going to select both of these bones right here. I'll have to work with it. The yellow, what the heck is the yellow? Oh, the yellow, I'm going to just select the head, the red, probably those two bones because they're overlapping, and the body. I thought I already did the body. And the body itself, I'm going to select this bone and this bone and this bone. And then I'll just work with it as I start working with it. The leg, same thing. I'm going to get the highlight first, and that's just going to be this bone right here. Then the leg itself is going to be everything else. Then the foot, I need to make sure that I highlight the layer first. The foot is going to be layer bound. And then the tail. Tail's not going to have too much movement. I think I'm going to do flexi binding as well with the tail. Select the bone, Control Shift F. Okay, now I can go ahead and I can take off the path for the wing. That was just an example to show you how to use that. So there we go, take that off. Okay, so now we have a very rough rig for our character, and this is where you start testing things, manipulating things, and just tweaking. So right now, not really much is going on. What I was wanting to do was, that's really weird. It's pulling away. I need to check out my parenting real quick here and just see how everything is being parented. Okay, so I got the blink. Oh, the blink. Oh, that's why. Okay, so that's why the bird was moving all weird, is because it's being parented back to the blink bone. So this main bone right here, I don't want it parented to anything. This should be the main bone. All of these bones right here, these I could parent to the head if I wanted to, which would probably make the most sense. So now when I go down, okay, so it's kind of like that. That looks pretty good. For the feet, so that they don't move when it's bending down, all I need to do is just select those, hit independent angle, and those will stay in place. Oops. Something is not right. What is going on? Let's go back to, oh, the leg. Oh, shoot, duh. For the leg, I did something stupid. I was thinking the leg was the entire thing. But it's just that bone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect this bone. Oops, let's try that again. I'm going to hit Control Shift F off of that bone, and then I'm going to just hit Control Shift F on that bone. So as I test that out, oops, my leg's not working again. This might need to be point bound simply because of where it's at. But as far as this leg right here, the foot, I mean, the foot needs to be bound. Oh, shoot. Okay, see, this is where I run into issues. The foot, I did that wrong. So I could already see where I did this wrong, because this foot can only be bound, because it's in a switch layer, can only be bound in a layer binding. So I actually created the design of this character wrong. So I need to fix that. So the first thing I need to do to fix that is, first I need to deselect everything. Gosh. So I'm just going to make this into two separate shapes. What I'll probably do is make the leg one thing and then the foot a completely different thing, because it needs to be in its own switch. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm going to go, let's see, I'm trying to think of how I want to do this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take all this out. Yeah. Hopefully it keeps my width and everything, or else it's going to be a pain in the butt to redo. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to break apart this. Whoops. Come on. I'm just trying to, my tools are not working. There we go. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. I'm just trying to, gosh, that's really annoying. I don't know why it deletes the whole entire thing. That's really stupid. Let's see if I connect these parts together, if it still does that. No, it doesn't. Okay, good. So that's what I want to do. I want to make his foot a stub, basically, that part right there. And then this is going to go behind it like that. Ah, dang it. I got to do all that stroke again. Oh, no, yay. I don't. Whew. Okay, cool. Okay, so the thing that I just did right there should be in leg. Nope. Okay, where did I put that? Oh, it's right there. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to paste it into the actual leg layer. And as you can see, it doesn't do it right. I have to kind of move things around, which isn't too bad. It's a very simple shape. Okay, so this is why it's really important to plan things out like I didn't do. Okay, so now I have to make sure that this is behind, and I have to make sure that this leg is behind the foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my leg layer, and I'm going to put that behind the foot. I think I put it inside of it. Behind. There we go. Okay, so now you got this. With this right here, this is easy to fix. Just go ahead and find where you want your points to kind of meet, and then hide where you don't want them. So something like that. I could probably pull this up a little bit higher, work with the stroke a little bit more. I'll get to that point when I get to smart bones. So I need to do the same with the other foot. So if I go back to my rigging really quick, just so you can see, now for the leg, it should all be, this all should be one part. I don't know how I messed that up when I was drawing this out. So this all is one part, and I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-F to bind the leg. And then for the foot is gonna be a layer, so that should already be correct. So let's just check it on frame 1. There we go. See, that's all correct. And again, this I could set it up in switch layers, but this that's not working. Okay, what's going on? Is my what is going on? I'm curious if I don't have like bone strength, or if I'm first I'm on frame 1. You make sure I'm on frame 0. Okay, it's working a little bit better. This might be a little bit of a tricky one. I'll have to play with this a little bit more, but I think it's because there's something's not bound, because the highlight is moving. Okay, so the foot I don't need any strength on, actually. So I could take all the strength off of that, because that's just a layer. This I could reduce. That's kind of the pain in the butt with working with target bones. I'm going to delete my target bones for now, because they make things very hard to move around. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so let's adjust the bone strength. Oof. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get enough flexibility with this. This is probably going to need to be point bound. Because as you can see, as I'm moving this around this leg, it's coming disconnected. I could probably adjust the strength a little bit to kind of work with this. That works a little bit better, but still not getting what I want. Yeah, that's going to need a little bit of work. It's working a little bit better, but not quite there yet. Good grief, I can't even move that bone. I think it's because of the independent angle. I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. There we go. Yeah, so a lot of this too, I mean, it's limited. This is where a lot of this you'll have to use smart bones. But I'm trying to think as far as control-wise, though, if it would be best to use point binding or flexi binding like I have right now. But I'll work with it. At the same time, I don't want any crazy movements. That's why I have everything storyboarded out, because his leg isn't going to be doing anything crazy. The only thing I can think of is he's going to be he's going to be bending down to pick up worms out of the bowl. So, yeah, this will be interesting because I know bird legs. See, I'll have to do some more research on what bird legs do when they bend down, because this looks stupid. This wouldn't work. The rotation's in a really bad spot as well for this bend. Yeah. So I'll have to work on it. Also, what the heck? Also, I need to bind. I did the parenting wrong. I don't want this to move when his head goes down. I want this bone to be parented to this bone. That way when he puts his head down. And this is where, with this as well. Dang it. That's not going to work either. Okay, so I'm going to leave it where it was. I could probably put this. I don't know if this works as an independent angle. Does it? More or less, yeah. So I could probably put that as an independent angle. I could fix the strength for whatever needs to be fixed right here. A lot of this, I'm going to have to get into the points themselves. So I'll have to do a lot of point binding. A lot of smart bones, it looks like, as well. But that's kind of what you do first. So you set everything up. You find what kind of things are going on that are going wrong, I should say. Like this right here, his tail's not going to be moving much. So that's pretty good where that's at. I could reduce the bone strength. That does hardly need any bone strength. His wing. Oh, I just put a, let's take that off real quick. His wing. I wasn't going to do too much with his wing either, but again, same type of thing. I don't really need that much bone strength on it. But you can adjust your bone strength as you're testing things out with your Manipulate Bones tool. This, it kind of overlaps with his head, but that's fine because, again, I'm not really doing too much with the wing. The wing's going to stay tucked behind his head. As far as this, though, this is going to take the most work, most likely. There's a lot going on here. So what I could start to do is adjust the bone strength for a couple of these bones so that they're working a little bit better. So again, I have to look at the skeleton of a bird to really know how this thing is moving around. As you can see, this will need to be this shadow will need to be point bound, because right now I have it being controlled with this bone, which works, but when this goes down, his head, I mean, it's staying in place, as you can see. So what I could probably do real quick, just to take a look to see what else I could do, is I'm gonna take the shadow and bind it to all three of those bones and just see what kind of result it still gives me. So it tucks under, which is a little bit better, but it still pops over. Well, is it popping over? No, it's still staying in place pretty good, but these results are not great at all. Yeah, this is gonna take quite a bit of work. Yeah. Okay, so basically, I'm getting close to wrapping up here. Oops, you know what? See, this is where I wanted the tail to follow. Oh, dang. What do I do here? So the tail, I want the tail to follow. So what I'll probably do is redo the parenting so that the tail does follow. I'll have to see if I do this right. Let's see. So the tail, I will parent back to this bone. That looks kind of dumb. Yeah, so this is going to take a little bit of work. The rotation, I'll have to look at the anatomy of the bird and really find out where he would be rotating, because I don't think a bird rotates right there. So that's kind of where I'll be re-rigging some things. Again, maybe if I don't know what this is going to look like. This is again where I'm just kind of trying to see what works and what doesn't. Oops, there we go. So when he bends down, let me set up some smart target bones again on this really quick, and then we'll wrap it up from here. So what I'm going to do is it just could create 2 target bones one more time, and I'm going to go ahead and make that into a target bone, make that into a target bone. Okay, so now when he bends down, that might work a little bit better. I'll go ahead and I'll put some independent, not angle constraints, independent angles on those. Do a quick save really quick, just in case it crashes. Yeah, see, I'll have to work with it because I'm still not really liking the results. It's gonna take quite a bit of work for the rigging, actually. So I'll work on a lot of this off stream, and then when we come on next time onto to stream whenever I can. I won't be able to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be starting the next work week. So probably next weekend, or maybe sometime during the weekday, I'll try to do a stream at night. But yeah, I'll come back and I'll show you my progress. I'll show you what I did differently following this video. It might be completely different rig than what I have right now. What I need to do is I need to go and I need to study the skeleton of a bird so I can actually figure out how this thing moves. And that's basically where I'll come back to. Real quick, I'll go ahead and I'll check out the chat. I'll answer any questions if you have any. And let's take a look here. So yeah, Excited Rock says, I actually found a live video about Moho animation or rigs or whatever. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Stereo Decor says there's one more important bone in the bird leg between a pelvis bone and the bone inside the yellow part of the leg. Entire leg should look like the letter Z. Awesome. Yep, I will look into that. Stereo. Yeah, I don't know enough about birds. But yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that will really help. It'll probably complicate the leg rig, but we'll get it figured out. And so next time we'll have a better rig. So I appreciate that. So yeah, it doesn't look like there was too much going on today, but as far as anything that I did today, if you want a step-by-step comprehensive course of how to do what I did, you can visit my website. I'll have it linked in the description. It's either mccoy.withcoach or mccoy.podia.com, whichever one you're most familiar with. I teach rigging on an intermediate level, an advanced level, and then I have a beginner's course for rigging, and it's this one right here, and it's free. This one doesn't cost anything. Also for drawing, so whatever you need as far as taking courses, I have structured courses where I teach you step by step exactly everything you need to know. And then when you watch streams like this, in case this is kind of over your head, you know what's going on. You know what shortcuts I'm using. I talk about all of them in these courses. Also, if you want to learn about animation, I also have some animation courses as well. The rest of my YouTube channel, as you can probably tell, has a lot of tutorials for you to learn from that are free as well. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, or you can subscribe. And if you wanted to, you can join my membership. I do a membership for Moho and Anime Studio animators. Right now I have just one plan. You can see all the things that you have available here to you. You're going to have access to all of my courses for $10 a month. Plus, I'll have project files, and I'll do one-on-one 15-minute tutoring with you. All of these are different posts and stuff that you'll get unlocked once you become a member, so you can see what's inside of these posts. You can join the exclusive community for the animators that I've set up for the academists. And yeah, so that's basically it. Thank you so much for joining me on this stream, for the support and everything. Just having people watch this is really motivating. It actually helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, that's basically it. Hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend, and I will see you later.